Question number 1, how has the application and audition process evolved over the past 10 years?
Well, over the past 10 years, it has changed quite a bit, quite frankly, especially the application process. At least at the California State University schools, the actual application dates have become very early. In fact, it's long gone already for us, which was the end of November. Those dates seem to be creeping earlier and earlier. The amount of students now in California that are applying to universities has risen dramatically, and so they want to sort all of that out before they have to make those kind of decisions on who is accepted. And the application requirements are still pretty much the same, but in the CSUs now, they've tried to keep the areas local. So if you're in a local area, the GPAs are one number, and if you live outside that area and you want to go inside the area, the GPAs and test scores have to be higher. So there's been a dramatic increase in the stringent requirements to attend a university. The audition process also has changed a bit just because of the earlier application processes. We try to get those taken care of as soon as we can. And because most of the CSUs now, and especially now in these budget times, are overloaded with students. So our problem is maintaining the number that the university wants us to maintain, so that only allows us to accept so many people into the department. So many times now you may be qualified as a student at a basic entrance level in terms of talent, but because we're limiting our enrollment, that may not necessarily get you accepted to the school at this point. We're just taking what we consider the best students up to the number that we can accept into the program. So there's those limitations.
Anybody else want to jump in?
Well, I think a major change that has happened is for many schools have gone to pre-screening, where students audition first by sending in a DVD of their performance and then are invited to audition. And that wasn't as common as it is today, a few years ago. And so that's been the biggest change that I've seen happen.
My perspective on this might be just a hair bit different. About 10 years ago, if we're talking about 10 years, I was auditioning for Juilliard. So it's still rather fresh in my mind, the audition process. So to be on the other side now, literally, of the table and seeing the audition process, it very much, from our perspective, depends on where you're auditioning. If I can switch the question around a little bit in that respect, is that on many of these schools, just because of the time constraints and because of the amount of applicants, you'll walk in, there'll be a spotlight on the stage, and they'll say Bach, concerto, or whatnot. At Chapman, our philosophy is we want to get to know you. We want to know what your goals and aspirations are. We'll take the time, we'll take the 10, 12 minutes as we can to ask you who is it that you want, and if we need to be honest with you, we'll be honest with you in that respect. That's a little bit different, certainly, than my experience as a conservatory baby, having been at Juilliard and Curtis and North Carolina School of the Arts, actually.
I would also add that one of the ways that admissions has changed is the use of technology. And for students, that's probably not a surprise. For parents, it's probably really different from the way you applied to school. But I think one of the changes is the use of social networking in various ways. And there's discussion among admissions people about, should we be doing it as grown-ups? Should we let the students do it? And I think it's technology evolves. It's just going to continue to evolve. But I would caution you, if you are using technology and one of your favorite things is to go onto Facebook or MySpace and see what other people have to say about the school, that the only place you can get correct answers about the admissions process part will be from the admissions office. And I can't tell you how many times people call up and say, I heard this from a friend of mine, and it bears no resemblance to reality. And I'll say, I'm so glad you called. So it's great to learn from friends, where they got in, where they're going, schools they heard of that you never heard of, teachers that they know of that you never heard of that might be someone worth investigating from you. So you can get all that from Facebook and that kind of technology. But remember that if it says, here's the deadline, make sure it's the school itself talking so that you get the right information on the nuts and bolts.
Thanks.